This episode of the only podcast about movies was recorded a little differently. Instead of in a nice studio in my apartment, it's still being built, so we had to do it in a nice living room in my apartment. So if you hear any echoes, anomalies, Zoe crying in the background, just please let it slide and we would really appreciate it. So now, enjoy the show. What is up, internet? No one's quick as Gaston, no one's slick as Gaston, no one's neck is incredibly thick as Gaston. My name is Matthew Kroll.
And a broken clock is right 2 times a day, Cogsworth, but this is not one of those times. I am Shahir Dowd.
Wait, this has got strange. You are,
Just kidding, I'm Jess Tucker.
Oh, thank God. I thought I had somehow become attracted to Shahir Dowd, and it was just very strange. Jess, thank you so much for filling in today.
It is my pleasure to be here.
You are obviously filling in for one of the most anticipated films that Shahir didn't want to see, Beauty and the Beast.
Yes, I'm so excited to talk about it.
This is the only podcast about said film. Yes, Shahir couldn't make it. He had a work thing, so he tells me. That's what he says every time, Jess. I just don't know.
We'll buy it this
time. I know. But I'm so glad you could be here for this being the only podcast about the film Beauty and the Beast.
That's right. It's the only one.
It's the only one, and not the 1991 animated version. Obviously, we have a new version in town. Yes. So I guess really quick. So Jess, you've now been upgraded.
Yes.
To official.
I've been promoted.
You've been promoted to official co-hosting status. That means that has some responsibilities that come with it.
I have to work
along with a hefty pay increase.
Oh, great.
Whatever. It's like 3 times 0 instead of 2 times 0.
Okay, cool.
But Jess, why don't you tell us a little bit about this podcast and where people can find it?
You can find us on the internet at onlymoviepodcast.com.
Yep, that is right. On our website, actually, we just got back from our PAX panel, our third and final Getting Good at Video Game Movies, where we fixed Hollywood for a third and final time. They actually had it, they broadcasted it live on Twitch, and you can go and watch the VOD. It was really nice. They had awesome. 2 cameras set up, and they shot audience members that were asking questions. It was very, very cool. So you can see that on our website.
Very legit. And on Twitter at onlymoviepod.
That is right.
And on Facebook, of course.
Yes, of course. Shahir posts lovely little things even when he's not here.
And you can also email us at onlymoviepodcast@gmail.com.
That's right. Send those requests in. We are still doing a backlog. Sadly, we haven't been able to do sort of double duty lately due to my move in the studio obviously not being put together yet. Yeah. But we're going as fast as we can. And if people like us, Jess, where could they show said affection?
You can show said affection on iTunes, and the currency of affection is stars.
That is true.
Star ratings. Please give us all the stars.
All of the stars. We don't accept anything else. Admiration, love, actually pure emotions. No, we just need stars. This is a purely Mario-based economy, and we need them to further on. We do appreciate all the reviews that we've been getting, so thank you very much.
Yeah.
But so Jess, okay. We got, by the way, very good job. You did it.
Thank you.
You did it.
Thank you.
Up top. Boom.
Thank you.
All right. It's so funny. We're rapping now.
Hard part's over.
Hard part's over. But listeners, if you could see it. So I'm in my new apartment in the living room on the nice couches, but we're both sort of there's no chairs with backs. So we're kind of hunching forward and being I feel like we're on an after school special. All right, listen up, kids. Beauty and the Beast. But so it's just going to be a little wacky. But so I guess we should just start with sort of, what's your history with Beauty and the Beast, as a Disney property?
I do actually have history with Beauty and the Beast.
Okay.
So Beauty and the Beast, as I recall, is the very first movie I ever saw in the theater.
Really?
Yes.
Holy shit. Yeah. There has to be a term for that. I will coin it by the end of the podcast, but there has to be a term for the first, I want it to be for whatever reason, I was it's your paper anniversary or whatever, something along those lines.
It is very because I was super young, but I remember going, and actually we saw it. I think I saw it multiple times in the theater.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. And how old? Well, that was 91.
Yeah, so I would have been 6.
Wow. And you actually, I guess I remember movies back then. I don't remember what mine was E.T. Mine was E.T. I do remember that. So you've lived with this tale as old as time for a long ass time.
It is. Yeah. Yeah. And do you know what's interesting is I was looking up the history of the tale as old as time, and it literally, there's origins of the story going back 4,000 years.
Yes. Yep. That's insane.
Like when they say a tale as old as time, they mean it.
Yeah. I wonder if this is probably not. I guess Cinderella probably goes back. I was going to say, is this the oldest sort of like tale Disney took? But I'm guessing that a lot of them are probably.
A lot of them are really old. So the story as told by the French novelist was written in 1740.
Oh my God.
I did the math, would make it 277 years old.
Oh my God.
But it was actually inspired by another story called Cupid and Psyche, which is like going back to like people like named like Platonicus like wrote it. Like it's like pre-literature like type stuff. And it's all very interesting, like allegorical things about like love and soul. And so I want to talk about that kind of stuff.
I'm stuck on Platonicus. He's like the dude that like never gets the girl. And that's why he wrote. Maybe Gaston in this particular case, just with Belle, was Platonicus. But I digress. That's crazy. Yeah, it's so interesting. Like we talk about, I mean, obviously on this being the only podcast about movies, we talk about film and sort of the stories that they tell every week. But you know, there's the tropes. There's only really like 7 actual stories and like that whole thing. I mean, every story for the most part, obviously with the exception of John Wick Chapter 2, has been told before.
Oh yeah.
And so it's just interesting to find all the. I mean, you come barreling into this non-studio with 7 pages of notes. For those of you, I think this is your 5th time on the show, 6th time.
Ooh, I think 5th.
5th or yeah. 5th. Jess comes prepared, insanely so. This is only the 2nd most notes you've written. 7 pages for a film. Star Wars being the first.
Yes.
Yeah.
Star Wars, I wrote like over 10.
You wrote a novel. You basically you rebooted the expanded Star Wars universe novelization after they gutted it all when Force Awakens came out. Have you ever? A side note: you've probably never read any of the Star Wars novels.
I have not.
Yeah, the old ones there's touch and go, and they're no longer canon. So like everything that we read, all the super nerds read, now doesn't really exist anymore, which is fine. They were getting a little cheeseball by the end. But I digress. So. You have a huge history with this film, or with the story anyway.
Let's talk about you.
Oh God!
What's your history with this film?
Look, I love Disney. I loved Disney when I was a kid. I was more of an Aladdin, Lion King sort of guy.
I like those too. Yeah.
Beauty and the Beast was never sort of my go-to, and I don't know if that was sort of like cisgender roles or like whatever the hell, like sort of how growing up, you know, blah blah blah. But I remember liking Beauty and the Beast. I also oddly only remember certain parts of it. Like, so going in, I probably watched the animated one maybe once in my adult life.
Okay.
And that was like 10 years ago. But I remember I didn't remember how Belle got to the Beast Castle. I always remember the first song of Belle as she's walking through the town. Then I remember their courtship and the dance, and then I remember the fight with Gaston.
Yeah,
and that's it. And so I was like, and so I don't know, and you might be a better resource than I, but like any changes that they made specifically to sort of like how things happen, I was curious because like I don't remember the connective tissue. So we'll see, but yeah, I saw the animated one when I was a kid. I always really liked the music. I feel like Lion King had great music as well, and Aladdin too. But this one felt distinctively more like a musical and not just a movie with music in it.
Yes.
And I don't know why that is either. It could sort of be sort of the subconscious of like Belle's very in certain, like in one scene, particularly in this film, like very Gone with the Wind.
Yeah. Well, you know what? We've had this conversation now a couple of times about like action in movies driving story. And this, the music, the little like breaks that they do,
right,
actually give you, or they fill in a lot of blanks with the story, and they help push the story along. Yeah. So the story, the song that she sings whenever the movie kicks off in the animated version and in this version.
Right.
And to go back to your question before, like this is like pretty much identical to the animated version, with the exception of like a couple of little things that they added that I'll talk about later.
Yeah, well, the thing is, this is the interesting part. So that this film is is 2 hours and 9 minutes long.
Mm-hmm.
The animated one is 1 hour 24 minutes long.
Mm-hmm.
So they added a bunch, or they extended certain things. And yeah, I mean, I thought, I guess overall, kind of getting into first impressions at this point, I liked it. Mm-hmm. This was a film that wrote a weird line for me because I wasn't bored or looking at my watch, but I did. When I got out of the movie, I was like, that felt like 2 hours.
Oh,
I didn't.
okay.
I didn't get lost in it enough where like you get out and you're like, oh my god, it's already whatever o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
But like I was like, yep, this movie feels like its length, and I didn't dislike that. It was a weird knife's edge to ride because normally I either hate that or love the time traveling aspect that a movie will put you through. So I mean, I liked it.
Yeah, they certainly like were like milking moments.
Yeah,
for sure. Like there was a couple of times where I was just like, you might be doing too much, but but overall, I liked it too. They added things, but they also like for the most part it rode like right along with the animated version, which obviously most people are watching this for nostalgia, so that was pleasing.
Well, speaking of nostalgia, I won't get into the stuff that I didn't like quite yet. Let's stay positive.
Yeah.
Well, let's stay positive for a minute.
Okay.
I again really liked the music. Emma Watson and Luke Evans, obviously Belle and Gaston, have some pipes when they're allowed to go nuts.
Yes.
Even the guy who plays the Beast, Dan Stevens, who we don't really see much, obviously in the flesh.
Dan Stevens, like if you're, I was a Downton Abbey fan.
Yes.
From Downton Abbey.
Yep.
Yeah.
He also, I believe, plays Legion.
Does he?
In the new. I want to make sure that's actually correct because I haven't seen Legion yet because I'm a bad Marvel fan.
I don't think that could ever be said about you that you're a bad Marvel fan.
Well, let's see. Yeah, Legion. Okay, he plays David Haller in Legion. Okay, cool. I was right. But he was great too.
He was great. Yeah.
I also kind of enjoyed how he's not the biggest name person, and I'm glad that, for instance, I didn't want like the transformation in it to be like
to Johnny Depp.
Right. Let's never do that again. Wow, I could just totally
that was
see
a callback to Fantastic Beasts.
Oh god.
What I was going to tell you earlier about, so whenever the movie kicks off and she's doing the song about like there goes the baker with his bread like always. Mm-hmm. So the scene, just to paint the picture for you, the scene for this is obviously France. And it's post-war. So
yes.
Gaston is a war hero. The reason that Gaston is a celebrity in town is because he was like a 16-year-old like war hero.
Gotcha.
And Luke Evans did a little bit of like extra work for him too. He like wanted him to have a little bit more of a story, like that he kind of is the way he is because he's PTSD.
Now I heard that explanation. I read that in an article or something. Where in the movie did that actually present
intersect
itself
with the story?
But I read that in a piece. Mm-hmm. Also, walking home from the film in the streets, there was a couple behind me and my friend Katie, and they were talking about it, and he was explaining. Oh no, the girl was explaining to the guy like that arc of it. Mm-hmm. But where in the movie did that happen?
You're okay. So the only real hints like that this is even like post-war or that he was like a captain in an army is LeFou like literally says, maybe it's LeFou, like a couple of people call him Captain Gaston. But so there's this idea of that this town has sort of fallen into like melancholy, even though everything's kind of bright and colorful and cheery. And the little scene that we get, and it's like this in the animated version too. The little scene that we get before we see Belle is the cautionary tale for the Beast and how the Beast became the Beast.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is kind of a long walk, but stay with me.
Okay.
So, in the opening little scene with the Beast,
sure.
When the Enchantress comes and
spanks him for being an asshole.
Thank you. Spanks him for being bad, makes him a beast, and if you didn't listen really carefully, you would miss that she says that the village will forget.
Right. So I remember that. She not only did the Enchantress turn the Beast into a beast and all of his associates into his cutlery and furniture, but not only that, because you assume that these people, like people that worked for him, probably had lives back in the village that this castle was sort of lording over. She would make sure that everyone in the village forgot all that they ever existed. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So, contrast, go back to the village.
Sure, for the first song from Belle.
So all these people are like missing something. Like the life has been sucked out of the village too, and they're all just sort of like going through the motions.
Baker's bread, just like always. That sort of thing.
Baker's bread, just like always. It's like clockwork.
Yeah.
8:00 on the dot. Windows fly open. People start singing the song.
They say bonjour. They all give Belle shit for reading.
Yeah, and so we have like the first like little like sign of an awakening in Belle. So Belle is basically like if life and love were to be like, metaphorically like fire, and the fire was extinguished from the village, Belle would be the one little ember that was still burning, buried under the soot, that finally like pokes its way through. So Belle is like this like wonderful like little like ball of light that comes flying down, and they don't even actually recognize it because the love has been sucked out of their life. And so stick with me. I said it was a long walk. I said it was a long walk.
I'm still here. I'm clinging on, but I have some things to say.
So Belle is like fire, like 3 like flame emojis, fire. Like you've got this girl, and also like
dancing twins, fire, dancing twin,
unicorn emoji, whole 9. Okay. And so what do you do whenever you're a 16-year-old girl that's full of life, that like just wants to read, but your library only has 5 books, and like your heart is full? You run to like the top of a hill and twirl around and sing a song about like wanting to have an adventure.
Oh, I was going to say you start dating a bad boy.
No, but she doesn't. Okay.
I know. Hollywood's taught me something very different.
Yeah. Okay. So this is what's really interesting about this story.
Okay.
This is sort of like a metaphor for this movie could be renamed the sacred / divine feminine and the profane masculine. If you think of,
I mean, it's not as catchy.
It's not
as Beauty and the Beast, but yes, you're not wrong.
Okay. So Belle represents a lot of things. Belle represents
Go on.
You're looking.
I love it. You're breaking this down. You're breaking this down so like intently. Where I'm just like, I'm trying to keep track of all of the things that I'm saying about it. But keep going. Keep going.
Okay. Okay. So the divine feminine. But there are in the world. There are, and there's a lot of different like religions and traditions that have different language for these things. So you've probably heard of like yin and yang.
Yes.
So it's the same thing as like masculine versus feminine. So Belle is functioning in her what is called like the divine feminine. There's a line from when Gaston is like pursuing her, that LeFou, his little like sidekick,
played by good old Josh Gad, who kills it.
So kills it. Gaston says to him, he's like, why is Belle like the only girl in town that like doesn't make a fool of herself to gain my favor? And LeFou's like, dignity.
Yeah.
So
that was a great moment.
That sums it up.
Yeah.
Divine feminine is dignity. She has boundaries. She's fearless. She is relaxed. But at the same time, like she is just a very young woman who like doesn't know, like she like thinks that she knows a lot because she reads all 5 books that are in her library, and has like sort of like that young arrogance.
Right.
But like she doesn't know yet things are about to get real. So Gaston and also early stages of the Beast represent sort of what's there's the 2 forms of the masculine energy,
right,
or like the profane masculine that is sort of like is very like all about like redemptive violence, and Gaston's like a war hero, and so he's all about like, I'm gonna cut you down before you cut me down, and that kind of thing.
Side note, redemptive violence sounds like the most metal band name I've ever heard. Continue.
And then there's the sort of the divine masculine that we'll get into later, which sort of like creates very like safe boundaries and sort of like allows like the feminine to like sort of like dance with them,
like locking someone in a castle.
Yes.
I'm being sarcastic.
I just immediately went with it.
You were like, yes, of course.
I'll argue with you later. Okay. So if you think of, so there's many layers here. So there's the title, Beauty and the Beast.
Right.
That sort of also represents these 2 energies that are happening and functioning and sort of oscillating in the movie. And then there's also, do you want to ask me questions now?
I mean, well, I was.
You've been like waiting to say stuff, and I've been talking for 10 minutes.
No. Okay, well, let's deconstruct what you've said so far. Let's go back. I want to go all the way back to Gaston as a war hero.
Okay.
And Gaston with PTSD.
Okay.
I like that they made him a war hero and they call him captain and blah 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 blah. Mm-hmm. I don't particularly like. And I don't think they actually do this overtly in the film. I bet you like there was a think piece, or maybe even Luke Evans sort of like used this sort of in a behind the scenes sort of character motivation thing for him. Like maybe Luke Evans didn't want him to be a pure dick, so he's like, But I also don't like the idea that like, because Gaston as a character is just a pure asshole. Like he is, even in this new movie, he is. I don't like the idea that like the reason he's an asshole is because he has post-traumatic stress disorder. Like that to me, like I don't like
left that alone and just let him be like a narcissist.
Yeah, he could be a complete narcissist. It doesn't need to be. I think in a way, and I don't think the movie does this, but if it did it and it did it more overtly, like I think that'd be kind of insulting to those with post-traumatic stress disorder. Like, do you know what I mean? Like it's just, so I like that they fleshed him out a little bit, and maybe it makes more sense like that everyone loves him because he was a military hero.
Yes, that's why he's like a celebrity.
Yeah. So I like that, just not with that little tinge of it. Then moving on to sort of what you were saying about, well, it's really the first moment about the town sort of having lost something,
yes,
and whatnot. I didn't get that from the animated movie, but again, I was younger. Mm-hmm. I love that idea, and I think that's very true. I mean, she's walking through during that first number, and she runs into who you find out later is Mr. Potts, but this guy who feels like he forgot something, but he forgot what he forgot, and that was actually a moment that she used to talk to the baker in the animated one, and the baker would like she was telling him about the book in like a refrain from the song, and he eventually like is like, oh, whatever, it sounds boring. He's like, he starts talking to somebody else. So in the animated version of this, I don't think you get that vibe from it, but I could totally see like getting that vibe of like this town is now stuck, and that not only makes it Belle is stuck, but it makes it like everyone in this town is kind of stuck because they're literally in a state of amnesia.
Yes,
and so I really liked that. But going off into, or do you pointing at me? Do you have a
okay? Yes.
Go.
So another metaphor, because there's many like sort of like metaphors going on here, is that the beast is also another way to describe the grind of life that's just sort of consistent and ongoing, without like any it's missing the beauty. And the things that make you stop and pause and enjoy life are beauty and love, and that's sort of what's missing. And so there's again like this contrast that the title keeps reiterating on like many levels, like throughout the story.
Yeah, I can see that.
Okay.
But now going on to the divinely feminine, and sort of Belle is basically a young girl. This is something that watching this really kind of irked me, and you could tell me if this is a me problem or a societal problem or neither.
Okay.
So animated Beauty and the Beast, the whole first song, Belle's song, is she's going through town talking about how much she loves reading. She's so excited about these books she's reading, and she's learning, and she's like wants adventure and blah, blah, blah. And then everyone in the town in this song just shits on her. Mm-hmm. Even though everyone she has like a actual interaction with like kind of likes her. So I've never particularly liked, and oh, by the way, she's the most beautiful girl in the town. Mm-hmm. So you have a lot going on here. You have a lot of like, there's a lot to that character. What I don't like in today's day and age, and I think it actually functions better as an animation as opposed to when I saw it live action, is I personally didn't like a bunch of people jumping around town singing about how odd and weird Belle is, because she literally, all we know about her so far, if we were going to this cold, was she likes reading books.
Yeah.
And I was like, that to me, and I get it's a period piece. I get that like that wasn't the norm back then. And they even have an additional scene of Belle teaching another young girl to read.
Yes.
Which was a great addition, which was not, I don't believe, in the animated one. So, but it felt weird to me. Yeah, live action.
That's because they're the Walking Dead. They're the zombie people that are going through the slug of life. They don't understand what life is about. You're never supposed to, they aren't relevant voices speaking to her. And she somehow, some way manages to be like her own freaking Catcher in the Rye to like protect her own innocence, and like doesn't let anyone interrupt like the fact that she is the only person with like, other than like maybe her father, with like actual still like a little bit of spirit.
Sure.
So she's the walking contrast. She is Beauty in the Beast. As you see her moving through if you think of like these villagers as sort of just like the zombie people that don't really know what life is about anymore. She's this one person that's like, I have a little bit of life in me, and she kind of dances through town.
Okay. All right. No, I can see that.
That's how she's like oriented.
Sure. I kind of wish, and again, this is something, because all the stuff you're saying, I'm finding far more interesting than some of the stuff that was presented in the film. But don't get me wrong, mm-hmm. I understand why this movie exists, mm-hmm. and that is it's a kids movie that adults should be able to like, and like they hid some like little teeny snippets of other things in there, which the ones mm-hmm. we've talked about, plus a couple others that we'll talk about later, just to keep the conversation sort of going. And while maybe the origin mm-hmm. of this story is very much rooted in all of the things that you've said, and even I bet you the director might have this was directed by Bill Condon, by the way,
who did the last Twilight movies and then also Dreamgirls.
Right.
Yeah.
I could see him sort of like having a lot of that in mind, and letting that, while he crafted this film, maybe soften some of the edges that might seem too sharp when this is now brought from animation to live action. Mm-hmm. But I don't think it was in this particular movie a driving enough force. Because I feel like the stuff you're describing, if it was more overt, if it was more sort of like, this is really what we're trying to say mm-hmm. In this particular version of the story, I would have like chomped at the bit at that much harder than I did.
I'm also like a feelings person. And so it's like,
wait, am I not a feelings person?
I'm not saying you're not a feelings person, but for me,
oh my God, guys, she's Shahir. She's actually Shahir. I didn't think this could happen. I need help. Someone send help via
I suddenly
podcast.
am 7 feet tall.
Yeah.
Because if you don't know, because you wouldn't, because this is radio.
That's true.
Shahir.
Shahir's a tall.
I'm 5 foot nothing,
Yeah.
and Shahir is actually 7 feet tall.
But I bet you'd still win in a fight.
Maybe.
No, maybe. But side note, you should have seen the confident hand back lean that Jess just did when she just turned her head and snapped to me and just said, maybe. Like, it was so, your demeanor twisted. Now I'm, okay, guys, if you know where I live, come and get me. I need help.
Okay. Well, my sweet spot is like connecting. So there's all these little things like as I'm watching the movie that like whenever I was a kid like watching it, like I knew that I liked it I knew that I liked
Sure.
it. But now as like an adult, I'm just like, it was just like these little booms going off and I was just like, wow. There's like so much. I like my stream of thoughts that I wrote like after the movie was like the first 3 pages of my notes. And I think that it's funny because this is a fairy tale. And I think that people, whenever they say fairy tale, say it very like kind of derisively with like a smirk.
Like superhero movie?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, we're back. We're on the same team again.
Now we're back on the same team. The reason is that there's sort of like a contempt that's held for a movie that's packaged as child's play within 2 hours that is actually more narratively and allegorically complex than any adult could really unpack in a single conversation. And so you have like kids, like it opens up like all these questions like of a fairy tale and like someone will, like an adult will just dismiss it as like, oh, it's just a fairy tale because there's actually so much to unpack there that I can't like actually get into it with you right now.
I'm going to go even pure meta. So what if the movie is now Belle, who's this little fire ember thing, and the world we're living in is actually The Walking Dead, and Carl and Rick are going to come and save us all. But before that, we have to, this might spark a little bit of something else in a child who likes it like you did when they were younger, and will eventually be able to unpack it more as they get older. It's a full circle meta narrative. What up, Carl? Stay back with the others. Yeah.
I think also too that something that happens whenever people watch fairy tales is like I watch this like I can't even tell you how many times I watched this as a kid.
Okay.
You have an experience and a couple of things happen. You either like want to like keep having that experience, and whenever it's a movie or it's a book, you rewatch it or you reread it.
Sure.
And then there's some people where they have an experience and instead of wanting to reconnect with the experience over and over again, it only magnifies the gap in between them, that experience in their life. They walk away from it and they're just like, well, that's just the movies. And now I have to go do 8 loads of laundry. So cool.
8 loads of laundry?
I mean, it's a lot of laundry. I'm not talking about me.
Oh, okay.
You don't have to feel sad.
Okay, I'm fine. Okay, no, it's fine.
But like some people could. And so I think what happens a lot of times too is like sometimes things like this make people feel depressed. Sometimes because you have an experience that you think that you can't achieve because there's all these really cool, there's so many like very interesting statements about like love. And
right. I mean, this is a fairy tale version of love, 100%.
Mm-hmm. But there's actual like real lessons in that. And I mean, this is a movie, spoilers. So
oh yeah, we can get into spoilers now. We've been talking for 30-ish minutes. We can go into spoilers. So yeah, if you haven't seen Beauty and the Beast in the last whatever many 4,000 years this story's been around, we might ruin some things for you.
Yeah, here we go. Okay, so one example is that he is willing to die for her whenever she like runs away and wolves attack her.
Sure.
Okay. So yes, very heroic. People would watch that and be like, so great that guy would like almost die for that girl. But the truth, the truth in this little moment here is, and it's like realness.
Okay.
Is that yes, like there are people out there that would die for you, but in order for you to be, you have to be a woman that is worth dying for to have a man want to die for you. And she actually like holds up that bar. And so like you can say that it's a fairy tale and you can say that maybe that would never happen. But,
I got you.
But there is like some realness in there. And then I think for some people that might be a little bit too real because that's actually like a very high standard to actually have to hold yourself up to.
Of course. I think also, I mean, I'll equate this back to equate this back to superheroes, but we were talking about on the Logan podcast how I was saying superhero movies are a derogatory term, kind of like you were saying that fairy tales are people just like, oh, like it's just whatever, right? And I think that's because, and I said it there, like the film, these are now genres.
Yeah.
Right? Like there's westerns, there's fairy tales, there's superhero movies. And superhero movies I feel like is the sort of the newest one that I would now call a genre. So obviously there's good and bad ones. There's ones that enforce the stereotypes and there's ones that buck them. And something that I do, especially after talking with you about this just in this short amount of time, like, yeah, at first I was like, oh, this is just sort of like fairy tale love and blah, blah, blah. But you are very true in the fact that like having, you know, it's one thing to go die for a person. It's another thing to have that person or that character be worth dying for. If you look at other fairy tale movies where like Sleeping Beauty, where literally the dude is just going to like save her and like fight and try to wake her up because she's pretty and trapped in a thing.
Yes. Okay. So
Same thing like Cinderella, like there's a lot of these sort of like princess quote stories. A lot of times they might be strong in certain aspects, but Belle does seem like she embodies the most complete person out of Disney. I'm just going to go Disney princesses. I don't know if you agree with that.
This story is different and unique and special in the way that you could argue that it's equally about him too.
Sure.
It is not as one-sided.
Right.
It's a little bit more of a whole story. And what's also good about this story too, and especially, you know, that I had something like this to look at whenever I was a kid, was that you have a female character that is going on the hero's journey. And going back to our masculine and feminine energy lesson earlier, like sometimes masculine doesn't always mean male and feminine doesn't always mean female.
Sure.
She goes on the masculine or the hero's journey in which she goes out into the world and goes through like this period of disorientation and growth. She has a couple of songs where she literally sings, "I've lost my innocence. I don't know what I used to know." And that's actually whenever her life like really kind of picks up and starts getting interesting.
Right.
Is whenever he saves her life and she's just like, oh shoot, like I don't know what I thought that I knew. And so and we'll come back to like how she comes full circle, but going back to him, he actually goes on the heroine's journey, which you and I have talked about a little bit about this in person. The heroine's journey is different from the hero's journey in which that it is a deep down into your own soul journey.
Right.
He has to go inside of himself and have transformation to come out and reemerge as a different person. And they both get at the same complementary time the full they both get the full journey and they're in the opposite sort of like functioning.
I got you. So going back to your yin and yang scenario.
This movie is just one big yin and yang.
I'm not disagreeing with you on any particular point. I think all of this is correct for the underlying story. And I think if I do want to say this, I think this version of the film, A, due to the fact it's live action, B, I think there are little nods to these themes that you're mentioning that the director puts in throughout. I 100% do. I, again, kind of would have liked to see more. Like, for instance, there's the argument, like, because people, and I don't agree with this, I'm sort of saying this as sort of like a counterfoil to see sort of what other fun, intelligent things you can sort of counterbalance it with your giant book of information. So like there's the whole thing about, okay, I'm gonna be the contrarian here, and not necessarily that I believe this. Let's just go down this road. Okay, so Belle falls in love with the Beast eventually, this dude who is mean and loud and dangerous and kind of a dick and is super possessive over her, right?
But she doesn't fall in love with him in the moment that he's doing those things. Right.
But for instance, now Gaston is pretty much the same dude in the beginning of the
I actually was going to bring that up.
And they both kidnapped her father. So they're both done a lot of things. So let me just finish this thought. Now you're right. Belle does fall in love with him as he is changing. Now, but the truth of the matter, and you could go this pure cynics route, which I, again, don't subscribe to this, but I've heard people argue this, that Belle is basically just having Stockholm syndrome. Like, she literally is trapped by a person and can't leave. So she then starts to fall for her captor. Now, I don't really subscribe to that, but you could see that from sort of the darker angle. And also, the only reason... Maybe this is even sort of, I might just come full circle and kind of help prove your point. The only reason that Belle is there in the first place is because she's trapped and she did an altruistic thing to save her father, like take his place, blah, blah, blah. But she would have never, the Beast would have never had the opportunity to sort of change himself. And she would have never had the opportunity to sort of be more brave than she'd ever been had they not been thrown into that situation sort of together. And if this is the end of this thought, I think if you look at it from a purely like, this is what happens, Belle's father gets captured, Belle trades places, Belle falls in love with the person who captured her. Like, yeah, that sounds cold and sort of like Stockholmy and very not quite good.
But that's what we call superficial.
Yeah. But I think if you are the type of person, as I feel like you are, and I'd like to think that I am, that can sort of see past that stuff to sort of see the real meaning behind it, I think it gets to more of the esoteric, the sort of yin and yang sort of stuff that you were sort of bringing up about the entire relationship. Both have sort of not only existing together in harmony, but actually affecting one another to make to make more complete people.
Yes, it is a statement about complementing each other.
Right.
She evangelizes him and he evangelizes her.
Yeah. I you know what? I will have to watch this again thinking about that, because I don't think this particular film, if we're just talking about this movie version of it, I don't think it does all of those things in such a nice, complete, overt way. I think you really have to dig down and like, and I'm not saying you shouldn't do this.
I've only had my entire life to think about this movie.
I know.
My entire life.
It's literally the first movie. I can't even
tell you how many times I've seen this movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
And obviously, I mean, if this is just what it's a story. Of course, it's going to speak to me in a different way that it's going to speak to you.
Sure.
Of course it is. But that's like the beauty and like,
and the beast.
That's the beauty and the beast of these conversations, is that it opens up. It does open up these conversations. It's the whole. It's the whole point. Like whoever tells the best story like changes the future. And so like whenever you have a story like this, that's such a like powerful statement for like young women. And it's like strength and sort of fortitude and bound. She's got like such good boundaries too. I was noticing the entire movie. Like that affects people that like.
What boundaries are you talking about? Like what specifically?
She's just like very quick to like kind of like shut him down and be like, no, that's actually not. That I'm not going to dinner with you.
Right.
Like,
See, I liked that, but also. Something that always bugged me about this story in general is the Beast is a lot of, and I don't want to see him do bad things, but he's a lot of bluster, and like he's a lot of everyone talks about how evil and mean he is, or blah blah blah, but then I never see him. He just seems frustrated, which I guess actually could be more of an interesting thing too. It's funny. The more I'm talking back and like, oh, just trying to be like a contrarian to your thoughts, like I seem to be going right back to what you're thinking.
Come over. I'll take you. We're on this walk together.
That's true. Well, let me ask you this. So, changing gears slightly. As far as this film is concerned, how did you feel about? They added a bunch, like we said in the beginning. How did you feel about the overall pacing?
I didn't ever at any point think that it felt slow, but now that I think about it, I'm like, well, I guess I really did have like quite, like I had good pockets of time during the movie that evidently like zoned out and like had time to like develop these ideas.
Sure. Or your entire life, as you've just
or my
established.
entire life. Like, but it was just there was room to breathe in the movie, that I was able to reflect on things as they were happening, and it didn't just so quickly move on to the next thing that I was like, wait, what?
And maybe that's sort of, I mean, we might be figuring this out right now together. Like maybe that's why you're able to at least think, or maybe that gives everybody sort of the more moment, because you don't. I do remember the animated ones kind of breakneck, like it just things happen and then another thing happens and another thing happens, just because it's animated. They're literally trying to.
It was like light, dark,
save as much money as they possibly can while they're making this, because they're expensive movies to hand draw.
Oh yeah, the animated one was like the first one to use computer graphics.
Yeah,
too.
for the ballroom scene. But with the pacing thing, not that I felt like it was too long, because again, I didn't think it was. I found myself, I was surprised at the different interests I held during various scenes. At the beginning, I was like, okay, like whatever, didn't really care. No, but you know what I mean? Like I'd seen it, like
I know this song.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And then I was really sort of interested when I feel like they did Maurice, her father. I feel like they treated him like a better character in this than the animated one. Like he just seemed like a bumbly like buffoon in the animated one. And this one, he seems just like a guy that's getting old, lost his way, only cares about his daughter. And
yeah, you cared about him. He wasn't just like something to move the plot along.
He wasn't the quote damsel in distress. In this version of it, he just felt like an actual. And Kevin Kline is one of my favorite actors, so I was glad to see him in there as well.
I didn't even like catch that.
He was him. Maurice. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
But then what I really liked was the scenes of their actual sort of courtship. So after she got away and then the wolves attacked her and he saved her and then she saved him and blah, 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 blah. Which he only got bit once. He got bit by one wolf, and I was like, all right, you're supposed to be this big, bad beast, and you got taken down on a shoulder bite, and now you're all like, all right, whatever. Yeah. They could have made that a little bit more, but again, I understand it's for children.
The wolves, I'm like a wolf lover, as you know.
Oh, yes,
and so
I know.
I have like issues also with people like always villainizing wolves.
Hey, it's their nature, and they're just gonna go after.
Wolf's gonna wolf.
Yeah, wolf gonna wolf. All damn day. But I really liked the courtship after that. Like I was so in on when they were being like basically flirty and nice to each other, which I didn't think that would be the moment, like that 20 or 30 minutes would be the moment that I like really latched onto. The snowball scene was hilarious.
Laughed, yeah.
So that was great. And like the soup scene, like everything just worked. And then, up to obviously the dance, and then it's a beautiful scene and blah, blah, blah. And then the ending with like the battle with the townspeople and like all that stuff. Like I was like, oh, this is all right. Like I didn't really give it whatever. Yeah. And then at the very end, when obviously, happily ever after sort of thing, when they reveal all of the actors that played, I mean, I purposely didn't, I didn't know who was playing who. Like, I didn't know who was in this, but like, it was great to see Ewan McGregor and Ian McKellen, and like, even Stanley Tucci was in there, or Audra McDonald, Emma Thompson. Like, there's a ton of people that played all of the different, that played, Lumiere and Cogsworth and Miss Potts and Madame Garbarobe, I believe, and Maestro Cadenza, which actually was a throwback to the villain from like the second straight to video animated Beauty and the Beast, like a Beauty and the Beast Christmas or something.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway,
I forgot that even existed.
Yeah. And also so like it was just strange, the parts that I grabbed onto, and that furthered the sort of feeling on my end of like, if there's one theme other than good of this version of the story, it would be that it felt, the entire movie in all of its parts felt slightly uneven to me. That went from the enjoyment sort of factor that I just described. Normally I don't have such a stark, on off sort of switch. And especially like a lot of times I'll just gravitate towards the action stuff. And this one I was like, I don't know. But secondly, I don't know if you noticed this, but being a fan of both real wolves and CG wolves, I hope you can relate. I felt like the this movie is full of CGI, like full of visual effects and animated effects and blah, blah, blah. To make a movie like that these days, you need to sub out this shit to a ton of companies, most of them in China or India or I actually don't know where this was particularly made, so I might be wrong. Write us in onlymoviepodcast.com and let me know if you know this information. But different houses do different scenes. And I felt like the graphics work in this film was also very uneven. Some scenes I thought the Beast looked, and it wasn't just lighting, like he looked great and really there and present. Yes. And other scenes he seemed like a cartoon character. Yes. And it wasn't, I was like, oh, maybe it's when he's literally just interacting with Belle and they're having a scene. I'm like, nope, because that scene worked and that one didn't. I was like, maybe it's when it's dark and they're hiding a lot of the flaws of the CG. Nope, that's not it either. That's the scene where they're doing the snowballs and the light outside was beautiful.
Yeah.
So like
they put their money in certain scenes.
In certain scenes, the ballroom, obviously, like you could see where the money was being spent, and that from and maybe that's just because we work in television and blah blah blah, but like that kind of pulled me out. Yeah. More than most big CG movies do. Yes.
Actually, the thing that pulled me out and my biggest gripe about this the most was CG related.
Yeah.
So my biggest issue with not connecting was I felt like the faces of the like Lumiere and Cogsworth and like all of like the little people that were enchanted into inanimate objects.
Yeah.
Their faces didn't look enough like faces. You know?
Lumiere's was the only one that really sort of did.
Yeah, and it really I had a lot of trouble like paying attention to like what they were saying, and I cared because I cared what was happening in the story, but I was like it was really jarring. You know, like they make cars purposely to look like faces so that people want to buy them. Yep. It's like by that same theory, like make it. I know that they made it look really real. Like he looked like a candle, and Cogsworth looked like a clock, but I needed a little bit more like expression and eyebrows and like sort of like I needed them to look more like people to like care.
Sure. And well, actually, speaking of caring, this is something I think this version of the film did not. I agree with your animation stuff.
You just 100%. Got to look closer.
I did. I really liked the fact that in this version of the story, there's stakes for people other than Beast and Belle.
Yes.
Like you were talking about, obviously, the townspeople. We were talking about that before. But now they implicitly say in this version that if the last rose petal falls before the Beast finds true love or someone can love him for whatever, and the curse is lifted, not only will he be stuck as a beast forever, which if you look at the original story, doesn't really matter because someone could still love him as a beast, and then the whole metaphor, like it doesn't even matter if he becomes human or not. But this now, the version of this, it also means that the people that are transformed into the furniture and silverware of this castle, they are slowly becoming less and less sentient. They're just going to literally become inanimate objects.
They're all losing their humanity, and he is too.
He is too, but like we don't really know in this version and in the old one. We don't know what him staying a beast forever does. Does he become more beastly? Would Belle then be in danger if she was just trapped in the castle? Does he become mindless?
I think the humanity light just completely goes out.
This really I enjoyed it because like. Before, all of his servants were just trying to help him, and in this one, they're all like, "Well, we're all in this shitbox thing together, like, and this is important." So, like, I just really liked that there was stakes for everybody, townspeople, obviously the what's supposed to be the comic relief, sort of a bit in the the animated objects and things. So I really did dig that.
Yeah.
Oh, and then something we should talk about too. Let's talk a little LeFou. Let's talk a little Disney's first canonically gay character, which is huge. And I always, whenever stuff like this happens, I always like, because there's no LeFou fandom really, like a huge one out there. Like it's a minor character that Josh Gad elevated to greatness, as he seems to do in all things.
It made that character a lot more likable. Yeah, honestly.
So. The thing about this is, and again, it was a change that made sense, with the story. Like this dude's obsessed with them.
It actually didn't change anything in the story, and it that character is still really the same character.
They just gave him a moment at the end where like he was with a dude. But the thing, I always go back and forth on this.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it is a wonderful thing that Disney did this.
Mm-hmm.
Then the cynic in me goes, well, it's about fucking time, mouse. Like this, like, congratulations, it's 2017. You just did this. Mm-hmm. Like, you should have been on the bandwagon a little bit earlier. That's, I feel like, and then every time I sort of get to that point, I'm always like, all right, stop, get off your fucking soapbox, me asshole. Like, it's very, like, it's important that these changes start to be made. And then Disney's doing some great, I mean, you can have problems with Disney as a corporation 100%, but they're doing some great stuff with this whole thing. Like Russia, obviously, they weren't going to release the movie and they wanted Disney to cut out the scene at the end where LeFou dances with the guy at the very end. That. Yeah. And Disney said for once, I guess, it's just like, nope.
No.
And so Russia was like, okay, well, you know what? We'll make it our, over 16. You can only see this movie if you're over 16. And it's stupid, but like Disney didn't kowtow to a country.
Yeah.
Malaysia banned it for the scene. They said it's great except for that one scene. Disney's like, nope, we're not changing it. And then Malaysia's like, well, I don't know who decided, but now they have till the 30th. They pushed the release date to see if Malaysia will do it or not. So I'll be interested to see if they cave. And then you even have like, there's some theaters. There was a theater in Alabama, which obviously Disney's not changing anything for the American audience. They're not changing anything for any audience. But you have people that, this is this quote from this theater owner, which just sort of bugs me. It's like, if we can't take our 11-year-old granddaughter and 8-year-old grandson to see a movie, we have no business watching it. And they're literally talking about a scene where LeFou dances with a dude at the end. And that just, and so like when I hear sort of shit like that in these countries that are sort of being like that, I'm just like, Disney, you got a lot of problems, but this is something that you've done so right. Just being like, no, fuck you. This is our movie. This is how people are.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Again, like movies change the future. Like, good. Yeah. Take a stand. Like, keep it in there. And eventually, like, years down the road, like, hopefully it won't be an issue later.
Yeah.
Because you took a stand now.
Yeah. And they did it in a right way where it's not soapboxy. It's correct for the character. They probably looked at it. They're like, you know what? He was probably gay the whole damn time.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, so I don't know. I really, I want to give, if our currency is stars, Jess, I want to give Disney 5 stars
give
for
some
that.
Stars. Star emojis.
But yeah, star emojis. But yeah, I mean, we've been talking about this for about an hour. Is there anything you want to get into? I mean, this is not by any means to cut it off. Shahir's not here. We can do what we want. But if you have some stuff you want to talk about before final thoughts, I am 100% open to it.
So I have one last thing.
All right.
So connecting back to what I was saying before about the zombie people in the village and Beast's little like thing being like his enchanting spell being a cautionary tale.
Sure.
And relating back to what you said of it, Gaston and Beast are essentially like the same dude.
Right.
So Beast is what would happen to Gaston if it wasn't interrupted. If Beast like wasn't interrupted by the enchanters coming and spanking him, so to speak.
Right. Yes.
Like he got spanked.
Yeah, he got spanked.
But like, look at the growth that came out of it. And so,
right. But I mean, but by that argument, Enchantress is literally is punishing everyone for this one dude's garbage.
Yes, but however, okay. So this is actually what I wanted to say.
Is it because we allowed the townspeople allowed the prince to become that way, and we're all responsible for each other in a weird societal wheel?
Here's the thing: I want to relate this to like jail for a second.
Oh,
you didn't see that coming?
Nope.
Did you?
Nope.
Okay, so sometimes and I say that it's a cautionary tale because I highly doubt that Beast Prince was the only one in the village at that time acting that way. He was made an example.
Okay, I can see that.
Sometimes we look at things like that as like is as the problem, but instead of actually being the problem, it's like the solution to the problem. And so so like if you relate this to like jail, like you go to a prison and you think, and then, okay, so now I'm relating, imagine like the castle and like its icy dark melancholy forest vibe, snow, being like the same as like a prison. So you go to the prison and you think that that's where the problem people are, but you don't actually find out a problem. You find out the solution to the problem. There's something that the what is housed there is telling you about society, to how to fix it. And so what you learn from the beast is is what not to do.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
It makes sense.
Am I doing too much?
This might be where I think you've stepped over the line for me. Only because, I mean, look, if we want to start talking about jail, yes, I think what you're describing is a very what a jail from a moral standpoint should do. But there's a lot of other things in human psychology that happens when put in jail. And I mean, the jail analogy works, and then again, it doesn't, because I mean, let's change, and this is just because I'm being this is semantical, but for me to get on board at least halfway with what you're saying, let's change it from in jail to imprisoned. And by that I mean you can be imprisoned anywhere. It doesn't have to be a jail or a prison. Like you can be imprisoned in a beautiful castle. You can, I mean, maybe there's a tower somewhere in New York that someone might just be imprisoned due to their own situations. That is just, you know, hey, it could happen to anybody. So what I'm saying is, what you'd hope comes out of that is what you're describing. What you hope comes out of this is sort of growth in realizing that, like, oh, you know, the prison quote isn't the problem. And the people in there aren't the ones that are causing the problem. You know,
it's the symptoms.
It's the
like
symptoms of a
problem.
disease, and not you're curing the symptoms, not actually curing the disease.
Yes.
I just don't think. In Beauty and the Beast world, I think it works out the way you're saying. In the really real world, where I live, that's not true. I think it's a little more complex than that, and I do think we'd need...
Of course, but it's just a story.
Right.
But in their world, yes, in the parameters of their world.
Right.
Like, that is where Gaston is headed. I mean, he, like, eventually, like...
I mean, it's been a while. This is a long-ass story forever. Yeah, he falls off of a thing after being a super dick.
So there were only 3 times in the movie when people applauded.
Is that one of them? When he died?
That was one of them.
That's great. You know, look, if you applaud when the villain dies, then the villain did a good job.
Yeah.
I think. I don't know.
All
right.
But yeah.
Okay. Well, listen. Let's I'm going to do my final thoughts. I'm going to let you finish it off because you're the guest co-host and you're doing a wonderful job.
Thanks.
This has been very fun. Shahir, if you're listening, pal, you better come back. If Jess keeps coming in, I don't know, buddy.
Oh, I'm eyeing a spot now.
Yeah. Keep it up. Okay. So overall, final thoughts. I do feel like I said before, it feels like the right length, and that's saying something, I think, for a film that adds basically 45 minutes to its runtime and an updated version. Societally, I feel like a lot of things, and you've actually turned my eyes around a lot in this, Jess, but like society,
then I did my job.
Yeah, this is it's societally responsible in some ways, and still not in others. Though I think, you know, you've turned me over with the kind of the yin and yang analogies. The script falls victim still to what I consider the lost problem, which is characters are in sort of peril or sort of not really getting themselves more endangered based on just not telling each other what the fuck is going on. But again, that's a lot of stories, and for me to pick that thing out as a problem, if I'm reaching that far to look for an issue with this movie, you can tell that it's actually pretty good. And then what else? I really liked, for instance, there were a couple small changes I really enjoyed. Making the Beast literate, making Maurice not as much of a dummy. Like in the in the cartoon, he had the same sort of thing. Like both him and Gaston couldn't read books that didn't have pictures in them.
Yeah.
And this one, actually, I think, kind of a callback to the actor who plays Beast being in Downton Abbey. He said, I had an expensive education.
Yeah.
And his character sort of, I guess in that one did too. And then I think this is the best of Disney's sort of live action remakes. It sets the bar fairly high.
Yes.
I think I'm terrified for a live action Lion King, and they're doing it. And I don't know.
Yeah.
Let's make Aladdin first. And I do.
Seriously.
I think it's a solid, if you consider it a solid date movie, because it kind of has something for everybody in it. Like I don't picture like even a boyfriend's like, oh, I don't want to fucking see Beauty. Like I do think there's enough for those people too.
There's so many, there's so many things you could latch onto here.
And again, Emma Watson just killing it. I know we didn't talk about her a lot, but she was phenomenal. And
she's the only person, I talked about this with so many people, she's the only person that could be Belle.
Yeah.
Anyone else, it would have been like, ugh.
And she's literally the right, like, she's obviously stunning, but like, she has that,
fire.
Yeah.
Three flame emojis.
Yeah, 3 flame emojis, dancing girl. And yeah, I just think, and especially the little things they added to at the bits, like do you think you can grow a beard? Which was actually at the end of the thing when he turns human and she asks him that. Oh, and
I love when he growls.
And he growls. Like, it was just a cute moment. Apparently that was actually something that was in the original that got cut out, or they had recorded thinking about doing.
Oh.
But I think I don't know if Emma actually ad-libbed that here because she knew about. I don't know. But it was it was cute.
It was really cute.
So yeah, I would say it's worth your time and money. Jess?
Worth your time and money. I think I'm so many things.
You hated it. I know you hated it.
I actually think that this is just like a really healthy picture of like what a relationship should look like.
Which is so strange.
Because a lot of people, are like, just like on the very surface level are like, oh, it's like Stockholm syndrome. Like she falls in love with her captor. I don't think so. I think that they both go on their separate journeys and somehow like intersect in the middle. I think that they change each other. So what they added in this movie that was not in the animated version is they actually touch and show scenes so they heal each other's childhood wounds.
Okay.
You revisit him as a kid when he was wounded. You revisit her childhood. She finds out what happened to her mom. Both things not in the the animated. And classically, like the only relationship that can do that, the only relationship that looks like the relationship you have with your parents is the relationship you have with like your significant other.
Sure.
It's the only one
terrifying.
that can actually heal those wounds. They do that. It's complimenting. It's Beauty and the Beast. Like she gives him boundaries and he is able to get creative and do things within there and grow. He gives her boundaries. She does the same thing. And
not just boundaries as in you can't leave the castle. Don't go in the West Wing.
I'm just like pretending like that's not a thing. But like that aside, because they both hit like a growth spurt at the same exact point, and it's just like it's so good. The moment she's done, the moment she's like cooked is whenever they're in the library. Yeah. And he makes her laugh and she's like, "Are you making jokes now?" And I was like, "She's done." Yeah. That's it. She's in love.
If you can make a girl laugh, gentlemen, I think you know this. You are in.
Yes.
100%.
And it's also, we talked about this a little bit in Harry Potter about like duality, and it's just also speaking
you mean
to
Fantastic
like
Beasts?
Fantastic Beasts. Yeah. Sorry.
Cool.
It's just like how important it is just like as a human being, like not even a human being in a relationship, but just as a human being to be like layered. And like she's a lot of different things and he ends up being a lot of different things too. He's kind, he's funny, he's, brave and they both are like these two like rare birds that find each other. And I just think it's a beautiful love story.
These two rare flame emojis. All right. Well, guys, thank you so much for listening. This has been the only podcast about the live action film Beauty and the Beast. Oh my God, Jessica. Thank you so much for filling the New Zealanders' shoes.
Of course. They're very big shoes.
They were big shoes. And I'm looking at you, and I know you were kind of waddling around because they are so big, but you filled them masterfully.
Yeah, and Shahir, if you're listening to this to the very end, we missed you.
Shahir, if you're listening to this to the very end, Jess missed you. Jess, when you're not saving Shahir's ass, reviewing films with me, where can people find you?
I am on Instagram at JessTucker3 and on Twitter at MotherTucka, MOTHATUCKA.
Nice. You can find me at MatthewKroll.com for all my life and works. You can also find me on Instagram, Skeletor with the number 4, PREZ, Emperor MSK on Twitter. You can also find Shahir Dowd at Shahir Dowd on Twitter, and I'm sure he has a website, ShahirDowd.com. I've heard him plug that once or twice.
www.shahirdown.com.
As always, please review us on iTunes. We really appreciate it. Stars are the currency du jour. Email us in onlymoviepodcast@gmail.com. Let us know what you thought of Beauty and the Beast. Did Jess go too far with her analogies? Am I a cold-hearted bastard? We don't know the answers to these until you tell us.
I have no idea.
So please write us in, say hi on Facebook, Twitter, etc. I guess, ladies and gentlemen, we will see you next week. Oh my God, I don't even want to say what it's going to be next week, because I'm going to try to convince Shahir to see a film you might be able to guess based on release schedules. But we'll see. We'll see if I can pull it off. Yeah. Anyway, Jess, thank you so much. Yeah. Everybody out there, thank you for listening. We'll talk to you next week. I literally just waved in my living room. That's how out of sorts I am.
I wish I could growl like Beast.
Is that right?
Yeah. Nailed it.
Nailed it.